The Luka leap is real, and is Luka Doncic becoming the most unguardable player in all of the NBA? This is the Gray Area right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And you can catch me on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. Luka Doncic has been absolutely spectacular so far through the first two games of this series as the Mavericks get ready to host the Clippers in games 3 and 4 inside the American Airlines Center, where they are expecting at least 16,000 fans for both games 3 and 4, where it should be an absolutely raucous atmosphere for Luka Doncic's first home playoff games. So far in this series, Luka Doncic is averaging 35 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, 9 assists, shooting nearly 51% from the field and nearly 42% from the three-point line, which has bode well so far in this series for the Dallas Mavericks. He's hit at least 5 3-pointers in each of the first two games, and they are 2-0 obviously so far in this series, which has continued a trend for the Mavericks all season long when Luka Doncic is shooting the ball well from the three-point line. This season alone, the Mavericks are 12-2 when Doncic makes at least 5 3-pointers in a game this season. So his evolution as a 3-level scorer with his ability to get into the paint and create for himself and for his teammates, the mid-range game which he has developed throughout the course of this season while becoming a much better three-point shooter, has put him in a position where he is becoming, if already, the most unguardable player in all of the NBA. Here are some numbers to kind of back that up for you. Doncic has ranked second this season in the league in unassisted three-pointers this year, just behind Damian Lillard. He also ranks second in shooting percentage out of the 12 players who attempted at least 200 unassisted threes this season, only behind Stephen Curry. So now you have a Luka Doncic who's not only a creator and a passer and a facilitator for his teammates, while now he's becoming one of the most lethal scorers in all of the NBA. And you've seen that so far throughout this series, whether it be Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, as he scored 17 of his 39 points in Game 2 against George or Leonard as the primary defender, whether it's Marcus Morris, whether it's Patrick Beverley, whether he's punishing Ivica Zubac on switches. There's nothing that the Clippers can do right now defensively against Luka Doncic. And that is mainly because of his ability to get into the mid-range and develop a mid-range game that has now facilitated things not just for himself in terms of the points he creates per possession for himself, but also for his teammates, and then with his ability to pass and create, finding the open teammates. So now offensively, what do you do with Luka Doncic? Doncic has tripled the amount of shots between 10 feet and the three-point line this season. And according to Second Spectrum, Doncic is the most prolific driver in the league, averaging 20.9 drives per game and ranks second in efficiency just behind Damian Lillard. So now, not only has he become a lethal three-point shooter, his ability to continue to drive the paint and create not just for himself, for his teammates, has now put himself in a position where he continues to grow not only as the best player offensively, but an overall leader for this team. Here is Rick Carlisle talking about the development of Luka Doncic as a leader, not just for what he does on the floor, but what he is contributing in terms of his voice when it comes to leading this Mavericks team. Here's Rick Carlisle.
Yeah, he gets better all the time. Gets better each year, gets better week to week. The leadership aspects are very evident as well. He's more involved in huddles, talking to teammates, talking about situations. Because he's getting so many different coverages and such unique attention, he's communicating all the time about, where guys need to be, if there's double teams and things like that. It's a natural progression for a great young player to, keep moving forward, and developing all these skills, and some of which have nothing to do with actual basketball skill. Some of it's just communication. And communication, when you're, the best player on the team is, a big part of being a great leader as well.
So Rick Carlisle saying, look, This is a guy who's getting more involved in terms of the huddles. He's getting more involved in terms of his conversation with his teammates, play in and play out. And obviously, his play is speaking for itself on the floor with the way that he's been able to create so far for his teammates. This Mavericks team so far in this series is shooting 50% from the three-point line, 35 of 70 from downtown. They're shooting over 54% from the field altogether. A team that is absolutely scorching from the field and the three-point line in the first couple of games. What the Clippers will have to do defensively over the next couple of games to avoid a sweep will be dependent upon how physical that they get, how closely they are willing to allow themselves to get up on Doncic and try to defend him. But what we've seen so far through the series, that no matter who you put on Doncic, he's going to continue to exploit matchups. That includes guys for Tim Hardaway Jr., who's 11 of 17 so far from the three-point line in this series. He has been absolutely spectacular also. He hit the clutch three-pointer to put him up 123 to 116 in the game 2, which effectively sealed things for the Dallas Mavericks. So now you look at a guy in Tim Hardaway whom New York Times' Mark Stein reports the Mavericks feel good about their odds to re-sign Tim Hardaway, who's in the final year of his 4-year, $71 million contract. So bringing him back into the fold will be obviously massive for this Mavericks team going into next season. But what he's provided from the three-point line so far in this series and really during the second half of the year has been absolutely thrilling for the Mavericks. Tim Hardaway Jr. this season hit the second most three-pointers in franchise history, tied a franchise record with 10 three-pointers in the game against the Miami Heat, and has really become the true third scorer on this team to really give the Mavericks a big three, at least so far in these playoffs. That's been pretty good, especially what you saw in game number 2 with Kristaps Porzingis having an efficient 20 points on 8 of 12 shooting. In game 2 alone, Doncic, Porzingis, and Hardaway combined for 87 of the 127 points in that Game 2 win over the Los Angeles Clippers. That will need to continue throughout the rest of this series. But more so than anything, Doncic is, when on his drives this year in this series, in 35 drives in his first 2 games against the Los Angeles Clippers, in his own shots near the basket, and the Mavericks are scoring a ridiculous 1.61 points per possession when Luka Doncic is driving through the first 35 drives in these 2 games so far in this series. So you've seen the beneficiaries of Tim Hardaway Jr. and others be able to hit shots because of the drives, but also Luka Doncic creating offense for himself and the efficiency of generating 1.61 points per possession on Luka Doncic's drive so far in this series. So what I'm telling you is, how in the world do the Clippers guard him? They can't. And what's crazy about this series so far through the first 2 games, Luka Doncic knows there's no one on the floor for the Clippers that can guard him. And more importantly, the Clippers know that they have no answer for Luka Doncic in this series. You can only hope to contain him somewhat. That is the kind of category that Luka Doncic has put himself in. There are very rarefied greats that when you look at them, you say, look, we just hope to contain him on that night because you know he's going to get his. I'm talking about the Steph Currys of the world, the LeBron James of the world. You know who I'm talking about when it comes to those kinds of categories, the Kevin Durant's of the world. Luka Doncic has put himself in that category, and it's been fun to watch so far in this series. But for the Mavericks to continue to play the way that they need to handle their business, one, they're going to have to show that they have the capability of putting their foot on the throat of the Clippers in games 3 and 4 to give them an opportunity to not have to worry about going back to Los Angeles. But even if they do drop a game at home in one of these 2 games on Friday and Sunday, what they have shown in terms of their confidence to walk into Los Angeles and beat the Clippers in their own building gives you confidence that no matter what happens in these 2 games, the Mavericks are confident in themselves on what they can do to handle their business and close out this series. But Luka Doncic's leap as an offensive player, not only with driving the ball to the basket, the mid-range game that he continues to put himself in position in to become an efficient 2-point scorer, coupled by the fact that he is an absolute much better shooter from the three-point line, gives you a 3-level score with passing and vision and creativity and ability that ultimately can't be stopped and is now turned into very unguardable. That's a problem for Ty Lue and the Los Angeles Clippers as they look toward the rest of the series and try to figure out some kind of way to try and defend Luka Doncic. Because if they can't, they may not find themselves getting out of Dallas with a win at all. You're going to be playing in a raucous atmosphere where the Mavericks will need to try and turn this into a true home court advantage, especially with the amount of fans that they're going to have. If they are able to do so in these next couple of games, the Mavericks stand a very good chance of potentially sweeping the Los Angeles Clippers. I'm not ready to go that far just yet. But through the first 2 games of this series, the Clippers know, or the Mavericks, I should say, know who the better team is. And it's them. And more importantly, they're playing like they know it. And that's because a precocious 22-year-old superstar has taken leaps and bounds in his game that is making him virtually the most unguardable player in all of the NBA. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. This has been another episode of The Gray Area. I'll be at the American Airlines Center for both games 3 and 4, so don't miss anything right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. This has been another episode of The Gray Area. We'll talk to you later. Peace.